With weddings, you're having champagne taste on a beer budget is what we call it. And the same could go for someone looking for a house. They could want 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, but realistically their budget calls for a starter home.
Walk us through that first period of time where you are now full-time realtor.
This can be a shock for some new agents is you can't wait for the business to come to you. So I made sure that my calendar was booked. My first year in real estate, my content was always, this is the house, these are the specs, this is how much. Now my content, I try and make it a little bit more relatable and not so salesy. For me, my social media is more about building a community. I have my fans, but that's also the same people that are so quick to give me a referral or to say, hey, you're the first person I thought of. I know so-and-so is looking. Can I send them over?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Buyers on Demand podcast. I'm your host, Sean Stewart here, and I'm greeted today with Christianna Gonzalez. Christianna, we're going to have an amazing discussion today. I am super excited. I like a lot of the things that I've seen from my research, from our brief conversation that we just had prior to recording. I think there's a lot of ways that we can go about this conversation. There's a lot of overlaps of interests here. And so for your sake, Christianna, just so you can understand a little bit about us, I'll give you the 30-second rundown, especially for any new audience members that are listening. My background, I started off as a media guy. So I was doing photo and video with a business partner who unfortunately had health complications. He had 2 blood clots in his subclavian veins, which basically rendered him physically incapable after doing surgery of picking up a camera anymore. It was pretty much a life-altering decision for the two of us where we were like, we loved helping realtors take photos and videos of their listings, help market those properties. And then when this health complication came, it was a whole 180 where we had to figure out what to do next. In doing so, we landed in the digital marketing realm because we loved everything that we're doing with marketing for realtors. And so we've been in this digital marketing space helping realtors and trying to expose as many marketing secrets as possible so that realtors are not bounded by what I like to call predatory lead vendors. It's something that we see all the time here in the digital world, where realtors are just constantly handcuffed to paying for a marketing vendor to help them with leads, when really the bulk of their efforts can be done for free, organically, with just the right volume and effort. And so that's my 60-second rundown. In this conversation today, with your background, your experience, I think we're going to get a lot of insights in terms of marketing strategies that you've seen work, not only in real estate, but also in some of your background. And so going into that, with your background, I see that you, just like I was saying prior to even recording, I see you have a plethora of experience when it comes to hospitality. So we're talking about not just real estate, not just hotels with the JW Marriott, but also with events, with weddings. Do you want to tell us maybe corporate venues as well? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your career, some of the things that you've been involved with in the hospitality side prior to you becoming a realtor?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, my main background is in hospitality, specifically with luxury resorts. And a lot of that was for the reason that I had this whole plan eventually to have my own business in wedding planning. And the best way for me to get there was to climb the corporate ladder, so to speak. I didn't want to spend too much time in school if I didn't have to. So I got my associate's degree in hotel and restaurant management, started at the resort, and from there made my way through several roles as a restaurant hostess, restaurant manager, hopped on over to the event side as an admin, and then went up as a coordinator and manager. I wasn't always with the hotels. I did have a brief time at the local zoo, which is really exciting as an event manager. But through that, I was able to find that I really loved being a part of these unforgettable experiences and moments, whether it was a big celebration for a corporate company or if it was, of course, a wedding. I really just loved helping facilitate and bring to life that vision that people had for this big day and this big moment.
And I can already, just as you're talking, I can already see the parallels where we're going to go with this conversation with what you're doing in the wedding sector and real
Right.
estate, because both of these types of, I don't want to call them transactions, but we'll call them investments for an average person, are life-changing events. And so you being the facilitator of an impactful, life-changing decision, I can totally see where your interest lies in these two fields. Before we hop from here from A to B in terms of wedding to real estate. Take us back, like where did this dream of the wedding planning or wedding events, those kind of things, where did that stem from? Because I'm assuming maybe it came from you as a child somewhere.
It
Tell us a little bit
did,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really young. Pretty much from when the time I could read. I remember always being drawn to the magazine racks at the grocery stores right when you're leaving, the free ones. And there was always those real estate brochures for different
Hmm.
brokerages that you could take home. So I would pick one of each brokerage up, and I remember just flipping through the pages and seeing these beautiful luxury homes. I mean, $1 million is a lot now, but 30 years ago, that was something too. And seeing the glamour shots of the agents, whether it was a husband and wife duo or just a solo shot, it was really interesting to me to see, the professional tied with the property. And so I would just spend hours, flipping through the magazines that I would bring home. And it wasn't really ever, I want to do this when I grew up. I didn't even know what
Hmm.
it meant to be a real estate agent.
Hmm.
Eventually, it went from the house magazines to wedding magazines. And so that's how that kind of filtered through, like, the dream changing. But when I eventually did pivot into real estate, that was the first thing I remembered was, "Oh my gosh, I actually did have a collection of listing brochures when I was little," and it was just kind of a memory that was dug down so deep and came up once I came into the industry.
It's funny. It's like an urge that I see from so many people that I talk to. Like everyone just loves to look at homes at the end of the day, especially like really, luxury. Like, um, I my kind of a pastime that I do with my dad. My dad's a realtor, and we watch Ennis. I can't remember what his last name is. Do you know Ennis, the guy on YouTube that does like the $100 million home tours, and he'll
Oh,
go
yeah,
and
yeah.
man, he's so good. And so we'll like sometimes we'll just spend like 40 minutes because these home tours are so long. And he'll go like we watched this one a couple years ago. It was about the one. It was this huge $250 million compound in Beverly Hills, and the
Oh
whole
my
home
gosh.
tour is like 2 hours long. And he's going from one section of the home, and he has to use a golf cart from one section of the home all the way to another section of the home, and then they have like a nightclub and
My
so yeah,
husband's
it's just
dream.
it's just like as a kid, I totally get it. Like everyone just loves to look at all of these crazy houses and be like, what would it be like to live here?
Yeah, and
So
as
that
much as we
totally makes
hate
sense.
getting those people I'm sorry.
No,
As
no, no,
much
go
as we
ahead.
hate getting those people in too through open houses where they say, "Oh, I just like to see, like, what they've done with the decor or the finishings," I would definitely tag along with my mom and grandma to the new builds to
Yeah,
see what was different and what was up and coming too.
so fun, so fun. But it sounds like just like you were saying, that wasn't really the primary choice for a long time, right? Weddings. Where did it start in your mind? Where you're like, I want to have a wedding business.
I think it was just so exciting to, again, through the wedding magazines, just seeing all the decisions that you can make with the wedding, from the
Hmm.
dress to the chargers, the plates, the napkins, the glassware, all of those little details. I would just dream about all day, like what different themes, and I would spend time on wedding planning websites. Like at 14, I had no business, but that's what I would spend my afternoons doing is just scouring
Sure.
different weddings and what made them different and unique and special. And so I was like, why can't I do that for a living? Why can't I, talk to people with different ideas and make that come to life? So that was
It,
the appeal for me and why I wanted to um, become a professional and be the go-to that new brides would come to and just help bring those visions to life. I wanted to be the fairy godmother of weddings.
there you go. And for the audience listening, if anyone new is watch or listening to this podcast and they're like, I thought this was about real estate. Why are you harping so much about weddings for me? Because I'm asking all these questions. It's because in my mind, what I'm seeing immediately just from the first 8 minutes is you being interested or passionate about weddings is one thing, right? I can totally see the allure and the impactfulness. It's romantic. Everyone loves, especially like young women. They all dream of
Mhm.
their one day, having a wedding of their own. Like, totally get that.
Yeah.
But you are specific. specifically interested in having a wedding business, wedding planning, more of the meticulous planning, the event side of it. And I find that there's this interesting parallel that I'm kind of like chipping away at to try to find, because it tells me a lot about you. Without knowing much about you, I can tell that you are a planner, you're very meticulous, and these are two skill sets that translate very well into the real estate world. And so that's why, for the audience listening, I want to spend a little bit more extra time here, because these little details of coordinating people to gather at this one special moment and having all the special details right and having the communication between one vendor and the recipient are all skills that will bode very well, when you become a realtor yourself. And so
Mhm.
with that caveat that I'm, mentioning to the audience, let's now try to fast forward through time a little bit and see, did you notice some of those skill sets that you learned in the wedding space translate over pretty seamlessly when you became a realtor? And my follow-up question is, can you walk us through the transition from the wedding in corporate event life to the real
Mhm.
estate life?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the reason why I transitioned from weddings into real estate was because I had to think to myself, what are some skills that I already have that would be easily transferable to a new industry? Of course, I had to pivot because of COVID. My whole scope of my work was to work with large corporate events coming into town and larger weddings. And with the COVID limitations and restrictions, I had no clue when that was going to come back. And I didn't want to sit around and wait for my job, or I didn't want to wait to be let go. So I am obviously I like being in control. And so being in control of my next move was what came natural for me. And so taking a look at what skills I had in my toolbox and what I was already good at was talking with people, organizing chaos, and
Mm-hmm.
sticking to a timeline.
Organizing
And so,
chaos is so funny. I love it.
yeah,
Okay.
doing all the work no one wants to deal with.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's why real estate was a pretty obvious answer for me, and it was a it was a lot of new things to learn. Obviously, I'm going from learning of, one type of occasion into a whole transactional side of real estate. So I learned a lot, but really, when you're boots on the ground, the things that you're encountering is learning different types of people, how to communicate with those people, meeting them where they're at, and trying to uncover, where are they in that chapter of their life? So they're still celebrating something really exciting. It could be they're happy to get away from really cold weather for a few
Mm-hmm.
months. They are retiring. It's their first time home buyer. They're starting their investment portfolio. Or they could be moving in mom and dad. So those are all still really incredible chapters and something I'm just really honored to be a part of each day. But again, going back to the organized chaos, there's all those timelines and vendor organization that you have to work with. Um, so I felt like it was a pretty obvious change for me.
Totally. Especially when I look to at your experience with JW Marriott, it's like, oh, okay, totally makes sense. There's a book that a lot of realtors that I speak to, they live and die by a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. Maybe you've read it.
Not,
It
no, I
Okay,
will.
well, definitely one that I would recommend for you. You probably already follow all the criteria in the book, but it goes through everything that you've probably experienced working in hotel management of how do you create this deep relationship with your clientele besides just kind of like an order taker, that kind of thing, right? And
Mhm.
so as I talk about this book and Unreasonable Hospitality, I'm curious, were there certain skills that you learned in your hospitality time that you were able to transfer to real estate to maybe create deeper relationships with your clients? Because
Yeah.
you have this unique experience prior to many others where real estate is this huge investment, right? It might be for a real estate agent who's just coming into the business, it might be a huge shock for them to figure out, how do I potentially sell something that is this large of scale to someone?
Mhm.
But you
Mhm.
already had this experience with the weddings, coordinating people's, you know, basically once in a lifetime sometimes, this huge investment that they make on themselves. And then you had the hospitality skills from the hotel. So I'm curious, what kind of skills on the hospitality side transferred with that.
Quite a few. I would say one of the biggest things would be handling expectations versus reality. With weddings, it's wanting you're having champagne taste on a beer budget is what we call it. And the same could go for someone looking for a house. They could want 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, but realistically their budget calls for a starter home, maybe 2 beds and 1 bath. So, um having to uncover what is it that they want, how do they wanna feel, and how can I help get them there? And then, of course, being prepared by doing research and having plan A, B, and C. Both with events and both with real estate, things will go wrong no matter how much you prepare for them. But I think what comes through as a professional is how prepared you are for each of those scenarios. So it's really important to have a backup plan or to have other options. Um, if you feel like a failure, your client's gonna feel that in any industry. So it's important to be confident and to do your research and be knowledgeable in as many ways as possible.
I really, really, really love what you said about managing expectations. It's something that I really live and die by with the
Mhm.
people that I speak to on a daily basis. Um, I've seen there's nothing that has killed a deal faster than a mismanaged expectation, or nothing that has killed a relationship faster than a mismanaged expectation. I see that all the time with people that I work with, people that I talk to, and a hurdle potentially that many people face. And my question to you would be, how do you properly set an expectation, right? That might be a little bit combative. It might challenge your prospect in a way
Mhm.
where it doesn't move them away from you. How do you properly challenge them and their beliefs and yet keep them wanting to work with you long term?
I think you have to acknowledge what they're looking for, where they're coming from, but also be transparent and being honest. I think that that's the best way to earn someone's trust and for them to really be vulnerable and say, "Okay, this is the situation I'm in, but I'm gonna let you lead me through it." Um, I don't think anything can hurt you more is to say, "Yes, you can have all the things." And then when you realize as the client, "I'm not gonna get any of that, but she told me that was going to happen." I don't
Mm-hmm.
think anything can kill a relationship faster than that,
Faster than that,
so
100%. I see it every single day. Jeez, yeah, I love that. My tell us a little bit, because there's so many questions that I can deep dive. I don't want this
Mhm,
podcast to be too much about relationship building for this episode, but man, we might have
mhm.
to do a follow up episode on that because
It
you would be the perfect person to speak to. I
Thank
want to
you.
give some value to the audience here regarding marketing. So
Mhm,
let's pivot a little bit into this conversation that I was curious about, because you're fairly new into the real estate business, but you have all of this experience behind you that is
mhm,
extremely valuable. It might, grant, it might even be more valuable. Hopefully, I don't get anyone upset here, but it might be even more valuable than someone who has more experience in real estate, but they don't have the hospitality and the weddings and all the stuff that you have.
mhm.
And so, my question for you is, walk us through that first moment or the first year or the first period of time where you are now a full-time realtor and you have to basically figure it out on your own. You have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and figure out how you're going to make this happen. Can you
Sure.
walk us through what that was like? Yeah.
Yeah, so, my biggest thing, and I feel like this can be a shock for some new agents, is you can't wait for the business to come to you. So I made sure that my calendar was booked with anyone who was already a pro in the business, whether that was your title reps, your lenders, your inspectors. I made sure that I took advantage of those lunch and learns, and I had my time set up to meet people who did this every day and who was the expert and who could teach me many, many things. I wanted to know different personality types. I don't think a vendor is a one size fits all. So it's good to know with the different clients that you're going to be chatting with who's going to be a good fit as a vendor for them. And staying coachable. I think it's hard when you're new in an industry to learn a few things and say, okay, I got it. But you really have to fight that ego and stay coachable. It's really important to ask questions, shadow someone that you like or that you aspire to be. Um, and another one for me is I wanted to find that business organically too. I I don't like when people knock on my door, and I don't like when people cold call me. So, to kinda learn how to do that on my own without hating myself, really just came down to I'm establishing a relationship, and I'm just here to help. So, my cold calls don't come out of the blue. Typically, my cold calls were to the pawns, so past team leads that went quiet after a while. So my calls were more structured around, do you still need help? And as far as door knocking, it wasn't, hey, I'm an agent. I'd love to sell your home. It was, I have an open house this weekend and I'd like to invite you if
Mm.
you have some time. Um, yeah. So,
This is this is really good. There's so many things that I can go into. There's two things that stuck out to me. One is I came in with your story, and again, for anyone listening, the reason why I'm harping so much, or at the beginning, talking about the weddings and your experience, is because I already am building a picture in my head of who you are as a realtor. And what you're just saying to me just now is kind of confirming some of these things that I'm thinking about. Because I imagine, right, and you tell me, this
oh
will
no.
be a good segue. Because of your extensive experience in managing events, that seems very parallel to managing open houses. And I imagine
Mhm.
that that might be a dominant lead generation strategy that you maybe employ. You might, because of your prior business experience, understand, okay, I just need to do a ton of volume and I need to talk to a ton of people. And the best way to do
Mhm.
that is just to have a ton of open houses, or maybe you go to networking events or something like that. Am I in the right ballpark in terms of your
You
number
are.
one lead generation strategy?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
and to this day, open houses are my number 1. I think it
Yep.
allows me to showcase, the way I set things up is very pretty.
Yes.
And that's
Exactly.
something that's
Yep.
transferable.
Yep.
Making the house is show ready. That's something easy and important that I can
Mm-hmm.
do. But aside from that, aside from meeting the buyers where they're already at, that comes so easy with an open house. And again, it is just a numbers game. I can sit at an open house for 4 hours and still not have anyone. But what I am able to gain in that time is market research, research on the neighborhood, research on any local spots. So if someone did come out of state and bought that home, where would I send them to for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, for
Mm-hmm.
hobbies, activities? And of course, during the solar open houses too, I can get content.
Mm-hmm.
Content I can
Exactly.
use after the open house, during the open house, content I can use later. So there's just so much good that comes from an open house as far as being visible. So whether that's visibility in person or visibility in social media, and again, it does just help strengthen the knowledge that I gain in specific areas by doing open houses.
So good. So good. Because I see there's such a, for whatever reason, a debate in the real estate industry about open houses. You know, like just for a little bit of background on myself, my entire
Mhm.
family, they're all realtors: mom, dad, grandma, sister,
Yeah.
uncle, that whole thing. And even within my family, like I go to family dinners, and dad is his main strategy is open houses. Mom is like, open houses never work for me. I see that
Mhm.
all the time online, and it's like, no, I think, for me personally, I'm of the belief that everything works given the right effort, volume, that kind of thing. And so,
Mhm.
I love what you just said there, kind of shattering the beliefs and saying no. Like, open houses can be used. You can leverage them in so many different ways for content, for a reason to door knock other people. Which, going back to what you said, is exactly what I love about some of the realtors that I talk to that are really killing it in sales. They always have a reason to
Mhm.
create a connection. They don't just door knock and say, hey, are you interested in selling your home? It's like, what are the odds that right now I am currently interested in selling my home the exact moment that you knocked on the door? But if you knock on the door and say, hey, just want to let you know I have an open house down the street in case X, Y, and Z, there's a
Mhm.
reason for you. There's intentionality behind you knocking it. It doesn't seem as salesy as just, hey, are you looking to buy or sell? So I love all the different ways that you can kind of repurpose an open house. And of course, the most important one is content. And what I see a lot too is an agent will have an open house. They might maybe get like a 20-second clip of it. They might just post it once and that's it.
Mhm.
But the beauty of, like you're saying, if you are in a slow period with your open house, you can get a whole library of content with it. You can get a ton of videos, repurpose at least 20 of them in different ways, cut up the clips, rearrange them. And so
Mhm.
going into this content conversation, I'm curious, have you found any effective ways to leverage your content online from your open houses? Have you found anything that works well, in terms of your content strategy there?
Yeah, so I think as a first agent, my content was always sorry, my first year in real estate, my
Mm-hmm.
content was always, "This is the house, these are the specs, this is how much. Let me know if you wanna see it."
Mm-hmm.
And now my content is more, "This is the house, what are all the fun things we can do in it?"
Exactly.
Or,
Yes.
"This is the house, who would it be a perfect fit for?" I try and make it a little bit more relatable and not so salesy
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
I try and just keep it like an open door. If you're engaging with me on my social media, I'm not gonna say, "Hey, are you looking to buy or sell a house, or do you know someone who is?" For me, my social media is more about building a community. And what I have found through that is I have my fans. I have, like, the same 20 people that I know are
Mm-hmm.
always going to heart my story or, comment on it, cheer me on, but that's also the same 20 people that are so quick to give me a referral or to say, "Hey, you're the first person I thought of. I know so and so is looking. Can I send them over?" And that, for
That's
me, is where I'm trying to go with it, is just to be the fun source.
Sure. That's brilliant. Have you found any effective strategies, posts, tools, features, anything on social media that has warranted maybe more engagement with your audience or potentially have led to a deal?
For me, it has been when I can do a little behind the scenes on my story and keep the reel separate. I kind of stopped posting my reel and then sharing it to my story. Um, Whereas I can give a little bit of more behind the scenes, or this is what's going on today, you'll see it later. That gets a little bit more interest, or a
Very
lot more
cool.
interest, I should say,
Do you
than
add
what
like any
is.
polls on the story to have people interact with it, or how do you get people? I like
Oh
the
yeah.
behind the scenes idea. I think that's great.
Mhm, mhm. The one that I just did yesterday, the video was about an empty fridge, and then I put, "Comment your favorite girl dinner." So,
That's
again,
awesome.
not super real estate driven,
Yeah,
but
but it gets people
it's
to
a lot of
comment.
people to talk about, yeah.
And you know what? That's what I found. It's funny what happens. I'm sure you experience this like in the hospitality space, in weddings, maybe in real estate. The more you learn, the more you realize that everything kind of comes down to the basics. And I think
Mhm,
this is part of the reason why we have this podcast is to talk with realtors like you and expose these secrets, because what we've seen in the marketing space, unfortunately, is these people try to overcomplicate marketing strategies. And they'll say, like, for example, you know, cold calling is dead. You have to do webinars or whatever, and you have to do this specific webinar. You have to do this specific, I don't know, content strategy, this specific ad strategy. I see these people all the time on my feed. And really
mhm,
what it comes down to at the end of the day, after learning every strategy under the sun, is how do we just have more conversations with people? And just like
mhm.
what you said, even if it's as simple as like taking a picture with a fridge and having someone comment on it, you're getting people to engage, and then you have a reason to continue the conversation in the DMs, and there you go. It
Yeah,
didn't require you to pay any money. It didn't require you to, run any ads or do anything complicated. You're just trying to figure out how can I get someone to interact with me, and so I think that's brilliant. That's awesome.
yeah. Another one I wanted to share, is about being a student of your area, and asking for recommendations. I think that everyone knows 5 or 10 people that they are a part of their growing business and have nothing but rave reviews to share and want to tell someone who wants to hear about it, whether it's their favorite lash artist or it's their favorite person who makes coffee from home and does a personal delivery. There's so many different people with so many different talents around, and I think that if you show that you're just as eager to learn about who they are, you're gonna get those referrals in your DMs very
That's
easily.
awesome. It's something that I've seen a lot, a lot, a lot. I've helped
Mhm.
realtors directly. I've seen it indirectly with some of the people that I talk to where, to bring this back to content, where they will go and interview restaurants, they'll go and interview coffee shops, like you said. I
Mhm.
actually, at one point, was working with this realtor for their YouTube channel, and they were doing this segment on best activities in where we're at in Las Vegas. It was in Henderson, which is a little suburb in Las Vegas, and we went to all the most popular like things to do in that suburb. And what transpired from that was not only 5 awesome shout outs from these people for potential followers and fans, but also these were 5 really big affiliates for this realtor. One of them ended up becoming potential client for them because they were actually looking for
Awesome.
commercial deal. And it's exactly what you're describing, where it's just like, how do I, again, going back to how do I have more conversations with the area? My question for
Mhm.
you is, how do you use that for yourself? Do you do any collaborations on certain platforms with some of these people? Do you just message them in the DMs? How can a realtor implement some of this stuff?
I say do it without looking for anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's all about uncovering the experience and giving my feedback on it. So, whether it's a Pilates studio or when I just did was a downtown walking tour,
Mm-hmm.
have the experience and give that back to the person that you're taking that from. So I leave a Google review. I ask how else can I support their business. I'll include them in my stories, tag them, share it, talk about it. Yeah, so for me, it's expanding the word of mouth because that's something that you don't get with a paid lead
Totally.
is positive words.
Yeah. Just positive words in general. Totally
Yeah.
true. Totally true. Yeah, with paid lead, you get someone who's like, "Who is this? Get up! Stop talking to me." Totally.
Mhm.
Curious, what has transpired from what you're describing here? Have you found some really awesome referrals from this, or even just really good content opportunities?
You
Anything
know
like
what?
that?
The most recent thing that I've gotten out of it is not directly from, leaving a review or from, talking to a business owner, but more so it's the knowledge that I've gained that I'm able to
Mm-hmm.
share with people who are new to the area. I did have a lead that came through the website, and their out-of-state buyers have never been to Tucson before, and they mentioned that they were going to be interviewing agents who had experience within a specific neighborhood in Tucson. And have I worked 10 deals in this neighborhood? No. But it mattered what mattered is the research that I did behind it. So when it came time for this interview call, I could probably talk for 2 hours about all the things that I had ready for them. And it wasn't it a few hours later, I got the email saying that they did interview other agents, but ultimately that they wanted to go with me. So,
That's
again,
awesome.
even though I didn't have that experience, of having 10 transactions in that neighborhood, I still knew and could uncover the things that were going to be important for them when they come into town.
And I think, again, going back to the basics, right? We talked about a
Mhm.
lot in this conversation so far of just having more conversations. I think the other fundamental truth that I've seen on all these marketing strategies and the buyers and sellers that really gravitate to realtors is to live the lifestyle, just like you're describing. Like, if I'm moving to a new area, me personally, maybe people are different, I don't know, but I would be willing to wager that there's a large segment of people that are going to look for the realtor who actually has done all the things in the area that I'm trying to do versus someone who, maybe they are a top producer, but they really don't know anything about certain, niche areas or have done
Mhm.
anything, right? Like, I've unfortunately seen many buyers and sellers interact with whoever had the most sales. And that realtor basically didn't really have the time to go and talk to the coffee shop owner or have the time to
Mhm.
go and do this activity in this weird little pocket of Tucson, or whatever the case is that this person's doing. And it's like at the end of the day, I want someone who, lives in the area and is a guide for this community for me. So if I have questions, I can rely on my realtor. So
Right.
I totally get what you're saying, 100%.
Yeah, having that firsthand experience, and being able to talk about it and get excited about it with a client speaks volumes, I think, than just saying, "I know of a place."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Here, I'll send you a text with, Yelp's recommended places versus me saying like, hey, you're not going to find this online, but I do, recommend this place. I go there all the time. You should get this type of cappuccino. Like that's
Mhm.
so much better, even for me personally, not real estate aside. If I'm going like, if I'm going to a new area and I want to know like the best places to eat, it's way more helpful for me to talk to a local who's like, hey, don't look at anything online. Go to this spot. Like my buddy here has like the best burgers
Right?
in town. It's like, dude, I'm gonna use that recommendation all day long. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. Um, we've talked a lot about some really good topics here. I want to go back to open houses quickly if we can.
Mhm. Yeah.
Fairly new realtor, but you have a ton of experience behind you. And so I'm curious, like, do you have any advice on how you've been able to stack open houses? How does a new realtor get a ton of open houses to show and build their business that way?
I think it's important that when you are interviewing brokerages, you pick a brokerage that has a good number of listings that you can host open. I think that that's one challenge when you're considering a boutique brokerage is maybe they only have 12 listings and 3 of them are land deals. Can't really do an open house at at a land listing. So I would say choose a brokerage that has a plethora of open house opportunities. And as far as taking a look at your schedule, I it's important to do at least 2 a week, but if you can, try and do 5. Try and do 6. Do 2 in
Mm-hmm.
a day. They don't have to be long.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to do open houses that are 4 hours long, 3 hours long, but it can mean so much more if you were to maybe do a 10 to 2 or sorry, a 10 to 12, drive across town in a totally different area and try that 2 to 4 time bracket and see what the difference is. See what the difference is with the area, play around with the days. Sundays, a lot of people don't come out of church until around 1 o'clock, or they go to
Mm-hmm.
church, they eat with family, and then they're out and about and free for the day. So just kind of play around with what days and times hit and areas that are going to be different.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Christiana, we have talked a lot about marketing. We talked a lot about content. We talked a lot about your backstory. What we haven't talked about really that much is where you're actually at. So, currently in Tucson, is that right?
Yes, Tucson,
Okay.
Arizona.
What can you tell the audience about Tucson, Arizona that many people don't know about, maybe misconceptions people have about Tucson? And yeah, start with that.
Yes. So this past week was actually our rodeo week, and we are we're the only place in the United States where schools shut down for 2 days for the rodeo. So growing up, a lot of our field trips are actually going to the rodeo parade, which is the largest sorry, the Tucson Rodeo Parade is the largest non-motorized parade in the US. So fun fact. If you come to Tucson, expect to see a lot of cowboy hats, cowboy boots. It's the wild, wild west out here.
Hmm, very cool.
Yeah, let's see, what else about Tucson? Um, like many places, I think Tucson has those pockets. You can hit a neighborhood that's pretty okay, but then right around the corner, you'll find $1 million houses. Um, it's a bit of a college town. So there's definitely the months where when the students are here, the parents are here, everything is up and lively. And then around the summer, it'll get a little bit more quiet.
Awesome. And have you lived in Tucson your whole life? Did you just move here from a different area?
Yeah, no, I'm born and raised in Tucson. But
Very
again,
cool.
still always a student. There's always so much to
Yeah.
learn, even
Yeah.
though I've lived here all my 31 years.
What has kept you? I don't I don't want to say for so long, because if someone said that to me, they'd be
That's
like, how old are you implying? But what? Um, so what I'll say is, what has kept you in Arizona your whole life and never moved anywhere else?
I really love that Tucson is so focused on the arts, gastronomy, and culture. I'm really close with my family, and my family has deep roots here, not only in Tucson, but in South Tucson over in Sahuarita. And another thing that I really love about Tucson is there's no natural disasters. We don't have to worry about
There you go.
hurricanes. We don't have to worry about snow. Really, we get some rainfall towards the end of summer, and we call that our monsoon. Um, that leaves us with some pretty gnarly potholes. But aside from that and a little bit of the heat, not too much to worry about in Tucson.
Awesome, awesome. Christiana, thank you for your time. We've had an awesome conversation. I foresee us having many more, because I have so many more questions to ask you about hospitality, sales, marketing, content. Anything else before we end off this episode? Is there anything that you would like to say to the audience? Anything you'd like to promote? Anything you have coming up? Now's your time.
Let- Let's see. I would say if you're a new agent, just always remember to stay a student. The more that you learn, the more that you're going to help your clients, the more experience you'll have, and the more that you'll be able to speak to different scenarios. I also want to say go the extra mile every time. For if you're thinking about doing something for a potential client, just know that your competitor's probably already doing it. So while you can, um, do the extra research, do the extra effort. It's going to count and it's going to help you so much. You're going to win. Um, and the last thing is always respect time. If you're not early, you're late. And if you are early, you're going to be prepared and give yourself buffers so that if things do go wrong, if things do come up, you're still going to have that grace period for yourself. And it's just going to make for a much more calm agent yourself.
Awesome.
So,
Everyone, thank you for listening. This is the Buyers on Demand podcast. Greeted again with Christianna Gonzalez. Christiana, where can they find you on social media?
ooh, I think it's Princessa_Gonzalez. Princessa is my middle name, but I figured it wasn't the most professional name to go by, so I go by my first name.
There you go. You have her Instagram now. Check her out online. And thank you again for listening. And we'll talk to everyone next time.
Thank you.